Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute on 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about there's more to life than just facts. So let's get started. If you like what you hear tonight, please leave a like, tell your friends, send me a message. Tonight's is about just feeling something and how that may be more important than just the facts. As the saying goes, just the facts, ma'am. That's a quote from Dragnet for those of you old enough to remember that. But first, a little side story how I got onto this topic. A good friend of mine in Oregon and I were bemoaning that last year neither one of us got our Christmas letters written and sent. We were talking about this last year. And so last week, lo and behold, didn't I get her Christmas letter like the Monday after Thanksgiving? They must have sat down, she and her husband, and wrote them all over Thanksgiving holiday and got them all sent out. So I said, well, fine then. The gauntlet was thrown down, so I had to reply with my own Christmas letter. So my number one task this past Saturday was writing my Christmas letter so I could properly send them in a card to reply to them. And that's where it got kind of interesting because, sometimes life gets a little bit challenging or whatever. And I was thinking, cheapers, what upbeat things do I have to write about? But once I focused on the positive things, I could have easily written a multi-page Christmas letter, perhaps even a short story. From Tony Robbins, one of his quotes is, "Where the focus goes, energy flows." As we often discuss, to a large degree, we create our own future. By refocusing, I went from thinking it had been kind of a bleak few years to a great few years. The events didn't change. I changed. And this was less a matter of facts of the past few years and far more about thinking with my heart and looking for the good things, big and small, that really did bring joy into my life. Last Sunday, I also finished up a short 4-session introduction to meditation by someone I follow on Instagram, Gabrielle Martinelli. I should have put that up as a banner. Well, it's pretty much conventional spelling. Gabrielle Martinelli, Martinelli. And he's very active on Instagram. It's his main channel that he works with. So I took his course partly to see his approach to meditation as well as his approach to online courses. And I was pretty happy, in both respects to that. But I felt a little bad because by the end of the 4th week, many students had dropped out. And I think I know why. And it was for the same reason that I find Gabrielle basically quite interesting. I believe it's because he didn't just give a bunch of do this instructions, but rather dove pretty deeply into some of the whys behind meditation, along with a lot of the interesting anomalies and related phenomena that come about to people who meditate regularly. The students who stayed were rewarded with Gabrielle's normal insight into the research and probably gained a much better feeling for the whys behind the practice, and that'll keep them motivated through difficult times. Just giving someone a pattern to follow doesn't allow them to really internalize the meaning and the goals. And so they won't have the motivation to work through the difficult times that always come with learning any new skill. So learning movements and principles are the facts of meditation, but going deeper allows one to understand and then feel the reasons and the goals behind the principles. Then the third thing in the same sort of genre to follow had to do with evaluating a job offer. So, I've talked about this before a couple of weeks ago. Same great crew as before, even better situation, a fantastic situation actually. There was, zero factual reason not to jump on this. And I truly appreciate even being considered for such a prominent role. But for some reason, and I can't even explain it well, there was a feeling that this was not the correct move for me at this time. Even in I did a whole analysis that was sitting here, so I used it for scrap paper for something else. I did a current job versus future job analysis. And the new role seemed better, basically in every way. But it still seemed, there was something better coming that I should focus on. I obviously don't have the answer yet since it just happened, but I'm confident that if I focus on a particular goal, that I'll then be able to work towards and in some fashion attain that goal. I'm no stranger to living that way, but this is probably the first time when something, totally visible and tangible, completely able to be examined by me, seems so clearly good, yet something still unseen by me seemed inevitable and seemed like where I should put my focus. And remember, I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm all about facts. But one of the facts of life is that not everything follows the rules that we humans think they should follow. And sometimes we just need to have faith in ourselves. So after cordially declining the offer, I then remembered a saying. It's actually by Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn, where he's on the other side. Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. He has a saying. The actual saying is, when you say yes to something, that means you have to say no to something else. And that's true for most of us, right? Most of our schedules are pretty full. We have a lot of things going on. But the corollary to that, which I really tend to focus on more, is saying no to something means you've opened up a space in your life where you can say yes to something else. You know, that can be a great opportunity. It can be your opportunity to follow a different path to a greater goal. Now, I guess the real lesson rather, is that facts are not always, well, totally factual. Events happen, but then we humans interpret them. Even things that seem, completely unassailable and factually invariant often are more relative than we might like to think. Recall that Einstein opened the door with relativity, and then quantum physics and string theory take that even further. I think they currently have defined 10 dimensions of life and the possibility for concurrence of events so that multiple things can be happening at the same time. The time is not only not invariant, but time might be parallel. So, life truly is kind of relative the deeper you dig. But even in our plain old world of conventional physics, things that we take for granted, such as cell phones, were literally the subject of science fiction when I was a child. People knew such things, they were physically impossible. There's no way to attain such a thing. If anyone old enough to remember Dick Tracy and the wristwatch. Well, I have one sitting over on the table over there. And now it's kind of like, oh yeah, I have, Apple Watch or Android Watch, whatever. That was total science fantasy not long ago. So life is very relative. Even trying to estimate the temperature is difficult. So say you're taking a walk outside, say, what's the temperature like? So much of it is relative, we don't even realize it. And many of those effects are not physical. It could be such as our mood, how we feel, things like that. Even when you measure with an instrument, and this is my profession, so I know this very well, things that you would think would be absolutely invariant. Stick a thermometer in and measure something. You very quickly find out that there are a lot of things that can make what seems like an absolute measurement be something very different than what you expected. So this is where our intuition and believing our heart is so important. Sometimes if apparently the right answer for something, it only appears correct, but in our inner mind, in our heart, they're steering us in a different direction. Once we get past the noise of our mind trying to keep us safe, because we know that's always in the background, the feelings that remain are probably worth carefully examining. We never know where it's actually going to take us, but if you have a really strong feeling, you probably shouldn't just ignore it, because probably there's something telling us there's an opportunity awaiting, and it'll become clear to you once you start down that path. That's it for tonight. I hope you realize that sometimes apparent facts are, may not really capture the things that are important at that particular moment. Sometimes you just have to follow your heart and your intuition, even if others don't understand why. You need to have faith in yourself. So never be ashamed of never be ashamed to defend the indefensible, basically, is really kind of the crux of it. Because, and any of us who have done things that society thinks are foolish, take a new job, you have a good job, why would you take a new job or whatever? You quickly realize that sometimes you just have to say, because it's the right thing to do. I know you don't understand why, Mom, jeepers, Dad, I know you think this is the best job I should have, but sometimes you just have to follow your heart, and that's the way to bring yourself to happiness. So that's it for the evening. Again, let me get ukr7.com up there. As always, ukr7.com, the war in Ukraine, it's winter there, just like it's winter over the rest of the Northern Hemisphere. If you look at any of the pictures from there, and I would encourage you to do so, it's snow on the ground in places, and it's winter for real. So if you can, you're able and want to support them in any way, and if you don't want to support Ukraine, the war effort in Ukraine, there's also worldcentralkitchen.org. They work not only in Ukraine, but other places in the world. And there's other places besides Ukraine, obviously, where there's just a lot of stuff going on. Remember, always thinking outside of yourself really changes your perspective on the world, and I think opens your mind in a lot of different ways. So if you can and you're able, any way you can think to help other people, I would really encourage you to do so. And it's probably one, as we say, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. It brings your heart out and gives you a whole different perspective on what you have and what others don't have. So that's it for the evening. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.